Thank you for all the witnesses and your testimony. Appreciate you being here. Mr. Moody, I just wanted to come back on a couple of things. We've had some testimony today about additional taxes on, say, flipping, but I also want to bring in just a bigger question about, the government also brought in an underused housing tax, which, surprise, surprise, has spent more money on administration than it has on actually collecting revenue. I just wonder if you want to comment on the general position that the federal government, which is normally done by local and municipal and provincial governments, with respect to land use planning and how it should be taxed.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chambers. This is something I've written a lot about in my Financial Post columns, and I'm just not a big fan of the tax system trying to be, kind of the answer for solving Canada's housing challenges. And there's been a whole bunch of measures. You mentioned one of them, UHT. There is a witness today that suggested that we should introduce a flipping tax. Well, we already have a flipping tax. It was introduced January 1, 2023, which is very duplicative. We already had a flipping tax in the Income Tax Act, and so it was introduced January 1, 2023, and surprise, surprise, the BC provincial government followed the lead of the federal government and introduced a flipping tax as well. And so I just find all these measures very, very silly, very dangerous. For example, there's a prohibition of deductions on Airbnbs, for example, where they operate in a municipality that prohibits them. All these are very interventionist and just simply not helpful.
Thank you for that perspective. So I guess in your view, if there's already taxes imposed on particular activity, an additional tax, duplicative tax, doesn't necessarily drive the behavioral response that people are expecting, mostly because there's, for example, already a tax in place. Is that one of the reasons why you're not supportive of it?
Yeah, absolutely, because what that drives is complexity. The Income Tax Act is by far the most complex and most voluminous statute that we have in Canada. And what we need is an attempt to simplify the Income Tax Act as opposed to continuing to add duplicative measures that will do nothing to drive the behavior. This proposed flipping tax. Are we going to have another flipping tax on top of the flipping tax, on top of the already tax that was in addition? I mean, it's quite frankly ridiculous.
On the issue of tax simplification, in your view, do you support a Carter-like commission? Do you think we could do something quicker than that? How much work needs to be done to simplify the tax code?
Oh, there's a tremendous amount of work that is needed to be done. And the answer to your question, do I support a Carter? Of course I would. But do we have the time to do that? Probably not. And so I would wholly support a shorter Carter-like review, which was proposed by your party earlier this year, that focuses on productivity and tax reduction and other measures.
Thank you very much. Last time you were at committee, you testified about having an increased number of inquiries of potential clients, individuals to your firm who are looking at or exploring potentially leaving the country and taking their assets with them. Is that still the case? You're still being solicited for your advice in those circumstances?
Almost every single day, Mr. Chambers. It's actually quite sad. And I know that there's numerous of my colleagues across Canada that are facing the same kind of challenges and issues.
And these are individuals with obviously financial means or a significant amount of assets that could take those assets or income and move it to a more favorable jurisdiction. Is that basically the premise of what they're seeking to do?
Sometimes the short answer is yes. And in most cases, it's the United States. And some might say, well, the United States is not all that preferential to Canada. Well, the short answer is it is. And so a lot of them are going to the United States. There's the odd one that goes to Europe and to other jurisdictions, but mostly it's the United States.
Thank you very much, sir.